This is the Godfather of cinema, and thanks for watching my analysis of director Federico Fellini's 1957 Italian drama Nights of Cabiria starring Giulietta Masina. Nights of Cabiria opens with Cabiria and her boyfriend frolicking on an Italian countryside. They seem happy and free until Giorgio leads Cabiria down to the river, pushes her in it, and runs away with her purse. Some bystanders help her out of the river, and with one shoe on, she walks home and burns up all of the clothes that she had bought for Giorgio. She then returns to the stroll at the Passeggiata Archeologica, where she works as a prostitute. The other prostitutes make fun of her because word had gotten around that Giorgio had tricked her.
You bitch!
Embarrassed, Cabiria pays a young pimp to drive her to an upscale neighborhood called Via Veneto, and there a famous actor named Alberto Nazzari randomly orders her to get into his big fancy car. He then takes her to a nightclub called the Piccadilly, where fans pester him to sit at their table. However, he tells them that he cannot sit with them and leave his lady alone, referring to Cabiria. Afterwards, they go to his apartment, and Cabiria is overwhelmed as for once she is being treated like a lady, until his real girlfriend shows up unannounced. And instantly, Alberto drops the act of pretending to be Cabiria's man and hides her in his bathroom, where she falls asleep on the floor beside his dog, as Alberto and his real woman Jessie make up and love in the bedroom. And after Jessie falls asleep, Alberto sneaks Cabiria out of the bathroom, gives her a wad of money for her time, and sends her away. Idolatry takes on many forms in Nights of Cabiria, such as how Cabiria goes out of her way to make sure that other prostitutes at Via Veneto see her with Alberto, the big movie star, in his big fancy car, and how she is blown away by the fact that Alberto tells his fans at the nightclub that she is his lady. Never mind the fact that she could have been anybody he picked up off the streets that night, nor the fact that the real Alberto was nothing like the men he portrayed in the movies. For when Alberto finally gets tired of pretending for his fans at the nightclub, he goes home and takes off his mask. Instead of the Latin music the band played for him at the club, at home he puts on some jazz, and for a brief moment he exposes the real Alberto to Cabiria, but none of her friends will believe that she was actually with him without some kind of physical proof. And to this end, Alberto promises to give her an autographed picture of himself. Now, let's contrast Cabiria, his fans in the nightclub, and their reverence against his girlfriend Jessie's irreverence. They see him as a big, larger-than-life movie star, but she sees him as a regular person, even slapping him in the face and walking away from him at the beginning of this scene. Not something that you do to an idol. Cabiria climbs out of a truck, and the truck leaves her in an open, burned field, where she spots a good Samaritan with a large bag dropping food and blankets into holes where homeless people lived, in underground caves. This Samaritan offers Cabiria a ride back to Rome, explaining to her that he has to drop off food and blankets during the day because the people who need them are out working at night. Cabiria works at night too, but unlike others who lived in holes in the ground, she is fortunate enough to have her own house, a small house, but still better than no house at all. But the main point of this encounter with the Good Samaritan is that this is the first time in which Cabiria gets to witness unconditional love, true unconditional love for its own sake. 1 Samuel chapter 16 and verse 7, "For the Lord sees not as man sees. Man looks on the outward appearance, but the Lord looks on the heart." Again, remember that Cabiria's outlook on love is based upon the transactional nature of her occupation as a prostitute, in which nothing is free.
It's like you've been holding out on me.
No.
Now let's look at Alberto, who, as those who worship the Madonna's image, is also worshipped by his fans pestering him to sit at their table in the nightclub, by the band playing what they want to believe is his favorite song, and by Cabiria going out of her way to get other prostitutes to see them together in his big fancy car, and getting him to give her an autographed picture to prove to her friends on the stroll that she had actually been with him. But just as easily as Cabiria can see Alberto's fame, car, and fancy home, she is blind to the equally, if not more, obvious fact that Alberto is an actor like herself and that he is nothing like the characters he portrays in his films. Cabiria is also blind to the fact that Alberto can take her out to a fancy club and back to his place for caviar and champagne. But this does not mean that she is his lady. She just happened to be in the right place at the right time, and he would have chosen any whore to be his friend that night. In fact, he thinks no more of her than his dog that she sleeps with on his bathroom floor. Most importantly, Cabiria is blind to how blessed she is to have a home after seeing how other people like her live in underground caves. Cabiria attends Mass and burns a candle to the Madonna, but as soon as Mass is over, people put away their candles, Virgin Mary statues, and crucifixes, and go right back to their heathen ways. Instantly, the sacred grounds of the church is transformed into a wild picnic, and Cabiria is discouraged by this, and the fact that her prayer and candle didn't result in instant change in others as well as in her own life. Therefore, she gives up on God and religion by leaving the church and attending a magic show. The magician there hypnotizes her and then proceeds to tell her that she will fall in love with a rich man named Oscar, who will ask her to marry him. Then he wakes her up and presto, immediately after the magic show, Cabiria meets a man whose name happens to be Oscar, just as the magician said, and he sweeps her off of her feet.
Io ti sposo.
Cabiria's unwillingness to accept the truth as to why Giorgio, whom she bought lots of fancy clothes and shoes, had pushed her into the river and stole her purse, why Alberto, a man who made his living as an actor, had randomly picked her up off the streets, took her to a fancy nightclub where he referred to her as his lady, and why the Madonna statue did not answer her prayer right away. Each of these instances of denial makes her susceptible to being misled by those who embody her deepest desires. The master of illusions in this film is none other than the magician, for Cabiria, like the rest of the audience at the magic show, wants to believe that something is real even though it isn't. When the magician hypnotizes her, she repeats the same mistake that she made with Giorgio. That is, she lets the devil and the audience know all of her secrets, and afterwards the devil tells her everything that she wants to hear.
Io ti sposo.
We often see things the way that we want to see them and not as they really are. Throughout the film, Cabiria sees what she wants to see and refuses to see things as they are. This is why she tells Wanda that she fell in the river instead of telling her the truth, that Giorgio pushed her into the river and stole her purse. And this is also why Alberto hurt her. He called Cabiria his lady and treated her so well that she began to believe that such a thing was true, because she wanted it to be so, even though this went against simple logic. After all, he'd randomly picked her from among many whores who were on the street that night. Therefore, it should come as no surprise that Cabiria's desires are only confirmed when the magician tells her that she will meet the man of her dreams, and she does. Her prayer to the idol of the Madonna went unanswered, but the magician gives her exactly what she wants right away when she meets Oscar, the man of her dreams, immediately after the show. In this scene, we see Cabiria once again chasing after fantasies, in falling for a man who had been sitting in the audience when the magician hypnotized her and she told him all of her secrets. The people in this audience are here because they want to believe in magic too. However, the difference between them and Cabiria is that they are wide awake, emotionally detached, and see the horns on the magician's head when he removes his hat. And as she wants to believe that her dream has finally come true in meeting Oscar, the man of her dreams, Cabiria had also wanted to believe that Giorgio loved her and that the magical evening she had with Alberto, the actor, was real, when it wasn't. But now, let's go back to the fact that at first Cabiria was not sure that she would even attend the Mass because she almost had her house paid off. She did decide to go to Mass anyway, but only because she wanted something from the Madonna in exchange. Yes, she joined others in offering prayers and candles at the Mass, not out of true love, but out of selfishness and what she wanted in return. And likewise, when Oscar emerges from the crowd of spectators to tell Cabiria how touched he was by her testimony, she does not question his, as she did not ask herself why Alberto would pick her up off the streets, take her to a fancy nightclub, and treat her to fine food and wine in his place. Cabiria wants to believe that Oscar is the real deal, even though all signs point to the fact that he is not real. John, chapter 8 and verse 32. Then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. Cabiria and Oscar start dating, and he rolls out the red carpet, spoils her with candy, flowers, and other gifts. He listens to her. He loves to read. He attended college, and he works as an accountant. In short, he is her ideal man, just like the magician at the magic show said. Oscar asks her to marry him, and she says yes and sells everything she has, including her house. Everything goes exactly as the magician told her it would. However, just as Giorgio, a scammer, had to push her into the river and steal her purse for her to realize and accept the fact that he was a scammer, and as Alberto the actor had to let her sleep on his bathroom floor with his dog and pay her for keeping him company to let her know that he was only an actor, it takes something just as blunt and ice cold for Cabiria to realize that Oscar, the man of her dreams too, is also an illusion. Giorgio should have taught her that you cannot buy love, and Alberto should have taught her two lessons. One, because someone can buy you candy and gifts does not necessarily mean that they love you. And two, respect the obvious. As an actor, it is Alberto's job to pretend, to trick people into believing that he's authentic. These experiences should have informed Cabiria with the magician and the fact that you can't always judge a book by its cover, as her emotions blocked her from seeing the horns on the magician's head when he took his hat off. For if she had remained objective, she would have seen these horns and the proper context with which to see Oscar, who wanted her to see what she wanted him to be.
You make me happy.
What do you think?
Having sat in the audience at the magic show and having heard Cabiria's confessions, Oscar transforms himself into her ideal man. However, as she attended the Mass, prayed, and burned a candle, not out of the sincerity of her heart, but in order to get the Madonna to give her something in return, Cabiria does not question what Oscar may want from her in return. With this said, Nights of Cabiria ends the way that it begins, with Cabiria being led by hand and heart to the river, only this time it is Oscar. When he asks her if she can swim, it's deja vu all over again, and Cabiria surrenders her purse to Oscar without putting up a struggle. Then he abandons her, and there she cries herself to sleep and comes out of the forest the next morning. There's a procession of fools going by, laughing, dancing and singing. The voice of a small girl calls out to her, "Hurry, or we'll lose our way home." And Cabiria joins them, smiling and singing through bitter tears, for in losing everything, including her home, like a fool, she can finally see. For the wise, like the fool, will not be long remembered. The days have already come when both have been forgotten. Like the fool, the wise too must die. Giulietta Masina's performance in Fellini's 1952 comedy The White Sheik inspired Fellini with the idea to make Nights of Cabiria, which owes its gritty look to a style born out of a post-World War II film movement called Italian neorealism, characterized by stories involving the underclass, the poor, the working class, filmed on location with mostly non-professional actors. Fellini modeled the prostitutes in Nights of Cabiria off of real prostitutes he met while shooting his 1955 film Il Bidone. Fellini said that La Strada and Nights of Cabiria were inspired by his wife Giulietta Masina, who, like Cabiria, is capable of expressing sadness, feistiness, defiance, comedy, and pride. Janet Maslin of the New York Times described the film as a masterpiece, and director François Truffaut considered the film to be Fellini's best at that time. On top of his many awards, most of Fellini's films are ranked among the best ever in every major poll. La Strada, which came out in 1954, was the first recipient of the Academy Award for Best Foreign Language Film in 1957. The grittiness of the film's subject matter, the juxtapositions in the film's depictions of extreme poverty and wealth, along with its sociological themes such as class, makes Nights of Cabiria my favorite Fellini film. Again, thanks for supporting my channel by watching this video. I would also appreciate it if you would give it a like and leave a comment to help with the algorithm. Also, subscribe and hit the bell to be notified of more videos I'll be uploading in the future. I'll see you next time.